Okay, everybody, welcome to the Heroes International, the Korean Qualifier. We got a couple of games here out of the Korean boys. There's two teams that will qualify for the main event, but there's obviously a lot to talk about. What is the Heroes International? What's happening with the Korean Qualifier? Why exactly is there no draft? And so on and so forth. And we're going to jump into that for just a second. But first, Lily and Uncles on the left side with Malfurion, Imperius. We see Jimmy again, Garrosh and Nazeebo as we're heading into the first map of the best of 5 series. So this is Brax's holdout. On the right side of the map, it is the Bubai Theory. I have no clue what that is, but well, that's what it is. Zarya, Stukov, we got Jojo, Chen, and Sergeant Hammer is being played here. And if you paid attention, then you already know that at least for the Sergeant, we have a little bit of a different lineup here in the way that she's getting played too. But alright, before we're jumping into all of this and go a little bit deeper on the teams too, let's explain first why we're here, what this is. So you might have already noticed during the X Cup that I've been talking about the Heroes International a little bit, and this is a qualifier, the Korean qualifier for the Heroes International. So the event is going to take place in October in Miami. The European and the North American qualifiers have, at the time that I'm casting this, not started yet. All of those matches are going to start at the end of August. But the Koreans, they had to hold their qualifiers a little bit earlier, or at least the first one, for the simple reason that these boys, they need visas. It's oftentimes a little bit of a longer process for them to get all of this. So that's why we're here. And they've been holding a tournament. 8 teams were invited, double elimination system, so winner and a losers bracket. A lot of best of 5s that they were playing. And a lot of top teams and former pro players in the Korean scene have joined up again to make it to the offline event. I mean, I can tell you, these guys were super excited about it. And so are we, obviously. The event has a prize pool of $11,000. We have 8 teams on site in Miami, 3 North American teams, 3 European teams, and 2 Korean teams. And it's going to be the first big international competition ever since Blizzard axed HTC. So it's going to be pretty darn epic. And of course, in addition to all of that, we also have the factor that so much has changed in the scene, and especially from Korea, we don't get that much information these days. We had some games played in the Fish League, but that's about it. As it stands right now, as we're going a little bit deeper into the game at hand with the Bubai Theory, already with some aggression here early on in the bot lane. This is, by the way, a match out of the losers bracket. So, because we're casting all of this from replays, since the time zone was very different, and at the time that these took place, the final few games of the X Cup was already played out too. So there was a lot of overlap happening. So in order to give you guys a bit of an idea what's happening in the Korean scene, what's happening is a massacre, damn son! Yeah, those were some pretty sweet hits there. Nice triple kill. But yeah, to give you guys a bit of an idea what's going on with all of this and what the Korean teams currently look like, what the meta is in Korea, to get you prepped a bit for the offline event, I wanted to cast some of the replays. Unfortunately, draft information isn't saved in replays, and that's why we're going without the draft into the games directly, to give you guys a bit of an update there. With 3 kills to 0, the Bubai Theory is already doing pretty well here. And this is a match, as I said, that it plays out in the losers bracket. So we are skipping the first round of the tournament and go straight into the next round of the losers bracket here, just to give you guys a bit of an idea of what's going on. We are focusing down on the final 6 teams that you will see over the next couple of days when we're casting this. But already there are differences. I mean, first and foremost, you look at Sergeant Hammer. We have now the Maelstrom rounds on level 1 for the Sergeant, and we're going to get the Barricade on level 4. So at this point in time, it becomes blatantly obvious right from the get-go that while Sergeant Hammer is being played, at least here in the losers bracket by the Korean teams, the build is very different from what we're seeing on the European side. We still have, of course, at least on level 4, when you're putting a Zarya into the mix, the speed barrier here to speed allies up a bit. But even that is a huge adjustment, because Zarya doesn't really get played a whole lot in the Western scene. Every now and then you have a composition where Zarya would make sense and she might get banned out, but she doesn't see a lot of play. And of course you have Nazeebo in here. Jimmy, another one. Not that he is played a whole lot in Europe or North America either. Every now and then maybe he pops up, but that's about it. Big wave now for the Bubai Theory, and they're doing a fantastic job in the first game here, so already pushing straight up through the top lane. And the problem with Brax isn't always, will be probably, that once that the momentum shifts in favor of your opponent, you're gonna have a very rough time getting back into it, simply because you're losing out on these fountains, you have a much harder access towards the beacons, and it's really dangerous now. But with that first fort already gone, that is a significant lead for the red team, and we are only 4.5 minutes in. Level 7 is finally kicking in right now, as Imperius down at the bot lane is still doing his thing. So the Korean teams that we have right now are currently playing this out with Garrosh and Imperius at the front line for the blue team. And for damage, we have a bit of direct damage and single target damage with Jimmy, who went on level 1 straight into the ace in the hole, by the way. And then on top of that, Nazeebo. So they are already looking to potentially get into a late game, which is honestly really surprising to me, because when you're thinking about Braxis, you're not really thinking about a map or a game that will last very long. So I don't think the goal from the start was to get Nazeebo to level 20 and just play around the Violent Faction. That seems like a bit of a very optimistic view on things, to say the least. Now, if they're making it that deep in the game, then it's obviously going to be an asset. But I don't think that was at least the initial idea around it. Most of the time in the Western scene, when we see a Nazeebo, which rarely happens, but occasionally does, it's the late game you're aiming for. And it's on different maps than that. Big fight once again, and they're going for Jimmy. Nearly a kill here, but Shen is caught. Imperius, on the other hand, dies first. They're trying to go for Garrosh too, and Sergeant Hammer nails it as they get the triple kill. Malfurion dies, and that's 3 additional kills now for the Bubai Theory after they've already taken out 2 of the forts. They're now making an immediate move over towards the boss. Tons of momentum in their hands now. 7 kills to 1 at this point in time. More than a level lead. Last triple kill helped, of course, a lot. And now with the boss also claimed, that is them really pressuring this. One piece of information I already also can give you. Again, we're going to talk a lot more about the Korean teams, about the strength of the Korean scene over the next couple of maps and also matches. So make sure that you watch all of the games if you want to have some additional information. One thing that I can already tell you is that Korea was always in a weird spot after HGC went down, simply because they didn't have as much reliable competition as, for example, Europe, where you had myself creating a lot of tournaments, where you had the Masters Clash, where you had also, I mean, tons of other tournaments that came through. We're talking Meta Madness, we're talking the X-Cup playoffs, we're talking about Masters Clash, as already pointed out a little bit earlier, and then some isolated tournaments that were organized. NA didn't have all that many either, but once CCL came in, that's now obviously cancelled, they had at least some. Korea had pretty much the Fish Cup and the Fish League, and that was it. So they didn't really have a lot going on there where they could play in a competitive environment, and definitely that hurt the Korean scene. And for most of the tournaments where they were playing, the goal of the organizers was to balance the teams out a little bit, to make it interesting for viewers more than anything else. This is not the case here. This is really where everybody is just trying to form the best Korean team so that they can show the boys in the West how it's really done and how the game is played. And you can already tell how the Bubai Theory is taking full advantage of that. I mean, these bad boys lock in an early level 10. They're 2 levels ahead right now. And with heroic abilities, they make this an absolute quickie. 7 minutes and 30 seconds in. And the red team has already taken the lead in this best of 5 in the losers bracket of the Korean qualifier for the Heroes International. GG, and well played.
Before we head into game number 2, make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet, so you don't miss out on any future content here on Khaldor TV.
Alright, game number 1 was a quickie. Barely any time to talk about the tournament and what's going on here, but as I said, we have a lot to go through. So once again, guys, this is a little bit of a fan service for all of you out there to get you an idea of what's happening in the Korean scene right now, to also show you which teams are qualifying for the Heroes International, and to show their journey a little bit. So now we're looking at the second game in the best of 5 series in the losers bracket between Lily and Uncles and the Bubai Theory. We got Stukov and Nubarak as a combo to start things off with for the blue team, with Hogga, Varian and Vala. So very heavy front line, very similar also what we're seeing a lot in the European scene. But then again we get this on level 1, the High King's Quest, and that always keeps me a little bit at suspense. But let's focus on the red team for just a second. We got Greymane Genji with Anduin, ETC and Sonya. So while the drafts are not absolutely insane, you can already see that there's at least some differences. Those are not necessarily these combos that you would currently see in the European scene here, and especially the level 1 on Varian is of course a bit suspicious, because that tends to be put to the test when you're not necessarily thinking about going taunt. I have to also put this a little bit in perspective. So as I already mentioned before, we are in the loser's bracket right now. And I talked about this in the first map a bit, that right now there is no intent by the tournament organizers to make these teams a bit more balanced. If you remember, we had this in Europe a lot, where we went, for example, for captains draft tournaments, where you elect a couple of captains and then they draft from a player pool, and what that usually gets you, oh, nice early kill. But what it usually gets you when you're going for like a draft is that you have teams that are maybe a bit more balanced, but you don't necessarily get these super teams. But when we're talking about an international tournament, of course you want to have the strongest team in your region represent your region. So we are going to see a few more one-sided games in this Korean qualifier, and I expect the same also to happen for the European and the North American qualifier, since at the end of the day the goal is to find the strongest teams within each region and then battle it out in Miami in October, which, by the way, is open to the public, so you guys can check that out. If you're currently watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a link into the description where you can get all the information. You can look up the teams that are qualified, you can look up where everything takes place, the dates, might even want to stop by, combine it maybe with a trip. And let's not forget, there is also a crowdfunding to make sure that we can increase production value, that we can get additional casters in, and that we can help the players more and more to pay for the flights and for the hotels. Most of the teams are already completely covered, but again, with the Korean teams, there's obviously quite a bit that needs to be paid for in regards to travel. So if you want to help out with that, you're more than welcome. There's a GoFundMe listed too. And the cool thing is actually that our sponsors are doubling every donation up to a maximum of 30,000. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really think that we're going to get close to those 30,000, but that's where they draw the line. That's where they're like, all right, this is all that we can afford. But until then, every single dollar that gets donated, every single euro is going to be matched by the sponsor, so it's probably the best deal that you're going to get. And interesting, especially for the Americans, there's also a charity component to this. Everything that we don't need, everything that is above budget gets donated to charity, especially for Americans with taxes. Quite interesting and something to point out here. But the Bubai Theory is actually continuing exactly where they left off in game number 1. I mean, these boys are really out for blood right now. An early Dragonite already for the red team. Varian gets an ass kicking because he was a little bit too late to the party. And now at the bot lane, we have the first fort destroyed. I thought game number 1 was a little bit of a speed run, but the red team is definitely on their way to the next round. At least that's what they're hoping for. It's getting a bit crazy here. I mean, as I said, I expected some differences in the levels of strength that we're seeing from the teams. This is also why I would always say take these earlier games with a little bit of a grain of salt when it comes to Korean meta and what we're seeing, because again, it's pretty difficult to judge the strength of a lot of these players here. But they are absolutely crushing it. I mean, boy, they are brutal. Now, I should point out that we have on the side of the Bubai Theory, Hooligan, for example, playing. So the red team, they're losing Anduin. The Crybaby is down first, but Vala died too. Went into an auto-attack build, so that death definitely hurts her. It's going to lose one of the Gambit stacks. Builds also diverging quite a bit with the Block Party on level 1 into the Speed Metal and the Pinball Wizard. But as I said, let's talk a little bit about the players. I mean, as you can already tell, a lot of the player names are written out in Hangul, but I can give you a bit of an idea on who's playing on the side of Bubai Theory. So they're playing with Kirisaku, with Counterfeld, Wishing, Kans, and with Hooligan. Hooligan, obviously, the one name that should definitely stand out to you guys, since he's one of the most well-known. And as I said before, there are quite a few players that have played in HGC that also got reactivated or are still active in the scene that are interested in getting the trip to Miami. So we'll see some of the, especially the winner bracket teams, then later on as I go through this tournament. But for now, this is the last chance for Lily and Uncles to get maybe a little bit farther in the tournament, and also to play Lily. I mean, if she comes in and says Lily and Uncles, I expect a Lily-Chen combo, at least at some point. I mean, sorry. If you go for a name like that, you gotta give me something here. Now with level 7 talents, we also got the Wizened Duelist. Already a little bit of a pull out there as the fort in the mid lane is nearly destroyed. So currently, the blue team is simply trying to stop the bleeding a little bit and make sure that they're not getting overrun like they did in game number 1. And they're doing their best here. The problem is that the red team is very close again to level 10, and then we're gonna see really what they can pull off with heroic abilities, if they can go for another brutal blow like they did in game number 1 as they are starting the aggression. ETC with a stage dive. Yeah, didn't necessarily have to go for it. There's no global on the other side, so it's not that they're going to try to match this. But let's see how they're going to utilize that. Currently, we don't have ETC on the side lane. We get the light bomb, by the way, so Genji engage with light bomb is definitely possible for them, and something that they could do. But yeah, it'll be fairly interesting to see what they can pull off now. Because that bot lane push is aiming for the first keep. And without level 10 abilities, it's always a big risk if you want to go in for it. But already the lurking arm here from Stukov as he's trying to push them back. So far, not really happening here. Another tower about to go down. And breaking the wall is probably the most they can really hope for before the blue team is also getting access to their heroic abilities. Yeah. But there's the light bomb engage, only one hit. Genji with the ult, and they're trying for the kill. ETC with the slide, and that's the moment where he wishes that he had Mosh Pit. They are still getting the kill, and they're also taking Varian. Oh, and Vala gets jumped too. Yep, and that's how you kill Vala. Nicely done. And that's how they're going to take the keep too. So the keep is going to fall 6 kills to 1. But just a bit of an idea, there's the Stukov kill, then Varian close second, and of course Vala got absolutely decimated here. Stage dive was absolutely on point, and they zipped in, took her down, even pressuring for the core a little bit, just testing the waters. And now that they're taking down Hogga, they might actually have a shot. Death time is of course insanely low, but damn guys, what is this? Booba Ethereal, look at this. These guys are absolutely murdering them. We're 7 minutes into the game, and we're in Dragonshire this time, not on Braxis, and they just took out a keep and nearly damaged the core. So they are really going for an absolute killing spree here. We already have the mid 4 destroyed, we have the top 4 taken down as well. There is definitely a gap in skill between the two teams here. And you gotta ask yourself at this point, what's happening in the winner bracket if these bad boys are in the losers bracket? So, yep, there we are. Dragon Knight number 2, 13 against 11. And the Booba Theory, they are currently going through Lily and Uncles like hot butter through cheese. All the forts destroyed, the keep already gone, and they are on their way to potential victory as they are marching slowly towards the core in an attempt to take this one out. It's getting nasty. I mean, really nasty. Death timers are alone. That Dragon Knight is not all that strong yet. Can they do it? That's the question. Already Anubarak is in trouble, and he goes down as Greymane comes in for him. The shield on the core goes, and that could be game. 1 kill, 2 kill. Varian is dead. So is Anubarak. And Vala just does neither have the stacks nor the damage to do anything about this. She's at 70 stacks right now. And the core is just falling way too quickly. That's an easy 2-0 lead for the Booba Theory. And this is going to be a very, very difficult series for Lily and Uncles if they are still planning to make it to the next round of the tournament. A victory in Dragonshire for the red team. Well done. Game number 3. I don't know what to say, guys. The Booba Theory is not fucking around, are they now? Yeah, they are definitely the favorites here. I mean, with Hooligan on their roster, I would have expected them to do well, but boy, they are murdering it. And apparently, we got Lily and Uncles taking this one with a bit of humor because they are actually picking Artanis, so they're not looking at winning the game, they are just looking at trolling around a little bit. I can appreciate that. So we got Ando and Alarak murdering Greymane and Artanis for them. Yeah, Artanis, still one of the shittiest side laners, and he's really good at one thing, and that is being a punching bag. And the Booba Theory is definitely going to take that layup. They got Thrall on the top lane, we got Hanzo, Stukov, Arthas, and Gul'dan as the picks. It's kind of funny to see Arthas now also in this Korean qualifier. We had him in one game during the X-Cup Summer Playoffs. But as we're looking at those comms, again, I want to throw that out once more because people really tend to misunderstand this. Don't look at all of these hero picks and immediately jump to the conclusion that all of a sudden a hero like Arthas is just straight up meta in Korea. This is a 2-0 lead for a team that is clearly outclassing their opposition, and we are currently in a loser's bracket of the qualifier here. So this is only the first taste that we're getting of the Korean scene as we're moving through the qualifier and nearing the loser's bracket final, the winner bracket final, and the grand final. Then things will probably clear up a little bit. But while this is a nice first piece of information and gives us a bit of a glimpse into the way that they're playing, don't overvalue those examples just yet. But it's cool to see it either way. So we'll see if this is something that pops up a little bit more. I certainly would be a fan, always like that, but as it stands, there's already the first kill. If the series has proved one thing, then it is that the Bubai theory is, at least for the time being, the force to deal with in the losers bracket. Again, later we're going to focus on some of the winner bracket matches as well. There's a lot of former HGC players that are still playing in the Korean scene. I already pointed out that Hooligan is playing for the team here. But just to give you guys a few other names of who has signed up for the qualifier. We have, for example, Lockdown playing. We have Gonda playing. Capybara is playing. And besides that, there's also Reset and Merryday, Spell and Dami that have all signed up for this and play on different teams. So we're definitely going to get some nice Korean action. It's obviously going to be very interesting also who, first and foremost, qualifies then for the offline event in Miami. And more importantly, how they're going to do once that they are there. Because nobody can deny that the Koreans were always the strongest region when we were in the era of HGC. Can always make the argument that in the pre-HGC era, especially at the beginning of Heroes of the Storm, the Chinese were even a bit stronger, but they fell off very, very rapidly as a lot of their players and teams retired. And then the Koreans just fully took over. But are they still there? That's the question. As I pointed out in the first game, they didn't have as many tournaments as the Europeans, for example. They didn't have as much competition. So are they still on that level? Can they get there for the event? Or are they going to fall victim to some of the Western teams? And of course, also interesting, how are the Americans doing? How will they do at the event? Are they going to be finally able to win against Europe, for example, to take a higher position there? Or are they just going to be farmed by both regions, as happened during the HGC times? So they got an opportunity there too. That, by the way, was pretty sexy. Thrall just got blown up. That's, of course, the problem when you're this far ahead and when you made both of those games a victory before the 10-minute mark, that you're all of a sudden maybe getting a bit too cocky. That happened with some of the European teams too in so many tournaments. Team One, looking at you. Sorry, had a little bit of a cough there. But yeah, so this could happen to the Koreans here as well. Maybe a chance for Lily Uncles to make it back into this, but we'll see. So right now we got on level 1 the Echo of Elements for Thrall. That immediately begs the question if we're gonna see the follow-through adjustment on level 7 for the extra damage, or if it's still gonna be the Ancestral Wrath for him. Negatively charged on level 4 is also gonna start getting some stacks together. Yeah, and I gotta admit that the blue team is doing a little bit better in this third game, but is it gonna be enough to take the map? I mean, this is still very early. They're already getting zoned away slightly, but the halftime show was obviously a victory in favor of Lily and Uncles. This is honestly where Tannis helps. I mean, I'm obviously making quite a bit of fun of Trash Tannis, and for good reason, because he is just shit on the offlane. If you compare him to the alternatives, there's always some couple of crybabies that come out of their parents' basement and is like, nah, but I like Artanis! There's nothing wrong with you playing Artanis, there's nothing wrong with you having some fun with Artanis, but the sad truth is that if you compare him to other side laners, he sucks. That's just what it is. But you can have some fun with him. Nothing more awesome than a proper god swap, and obviously with his level 1 you have some nice immortal damage. Don't get me wrong, that still doesn't make him good here. That still doesn't make up for all of the weaknesses that he has, but at the same time, it helps you in the early game to get a leg up over your opponent when you're fighting for the Immortal. That little advantage is then very quickly disappearing, but you have it at least initially. So there it is. And I know, there's a couple of people that are now going to tell me like, but I went to this website that has stats from Storm League and it says like he's doing really well. Yeah, that's the problem. Nobody gives a shit about Storm League stats because they don't have anything to do with competitive play. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about competitive play, not about quick match or what's happening in Storm League. Sorry, if I have to disillusion a couple of people here, but that's just what it is. Now, either way, they are able to get a little bit of damage done at the top lane, so that's already cool. I'm still also hoping, by the way, that we're going to see a couple of god swaps, because I'm a sucker for a funny play as much as the next guy. But at least right now, we got him down in the bot lane, locked into a one-on-one battle against Thrall. And now that Alarak at the top has been killed, this is a freebie on the camp for the Bubai Theory. But it's 2 kills to 2. I mean, this is the most successful game that the blue team had so far. So good for them. And we'll find out if they can maybe even claim victory on one here. Now, when we're talking about Gul'dan, we got the Echoed Corruption in here. We got the improved life tap as well. I mean, the fact alone that Gul'dan is played here is in and of itself also something that you would never see these days in Europe. But as I pointed out, we will find out over the course of the qualifier if this is just a one-off, because they're saying like, hey, we're so far ahead, we have a 2-0 in a best of 5, we absolutely demolished them in both maps, let's have a little bit of fun, play heroes that we want to play instead of necessarily the best ones, or if they really believe this is the way to go here, and if we're going to see this in more games later on. So it's a really nice piece of information, and we'll see that either confirmed or counterplayed later on. Somebody was in trouble. Alarak got a little bit sassy as usual and was nearly punished by Arthas. But right now the next objective is going to come up. So we're going to get the next one in just a moment. Down to the bottom of the map. We still have our 1 versus 1. Currently with 21,000, Gul'dan is doing the most damage in the game. And they are really trying to get that kill here. Yeah, there comes the swap attempt. Thrall alive. The ult. That's the problem when you have level 10 kicking in for your opponents. You just can't go into a fight like this. So yeah, they lose Alarak. They lose Artanis, and now the objective is popped up on the map. And with level 11 to level 9, the Bubai Theory can once again go in a bit of a killing spree here in the attempt to make this an easy 3-0 victory. So, let's have a bit of a look at what they can pull off. We got, I mean, if nothing else told you that this is maybe not the game that they take too seriously, take a quick look at the ult that we're seeing from Gul'dan here. They go for the Rain of Destruction. We got the Syndragosa as well. I love both of these ult, but I would not really claim that they are necessarily the best option here. It's going to be fun for Hanzo though, because now he has Syndragosa and Earthquake to line up his Dragon Strike and then get mad damage out of it. And I guess the same idea applies to an extent for the Rain of Destruction, but no Horrify is something that you rarely see. And yeah, I'm not quite sure where this one is headed. This is like narrowly missing the target, straight up to North America, I suppose. But yeah. Then on the other side, Anduin! Look at him! The Holy Word Salvation! So many words. Even in Korea! Yeah. Alright. Here's so many words. Oh, there he goes. Make Anduin great again. Make him great again. Yeah, make Anduin... He was never really great, but we're gonna make him great again. Because he has so many words. They're tremendous. There's 2 kills. There's a 3rd. There's another one. Alarak is dead. He's always dying. Very sad. Very sad. I like heroes that don't die. 8 kills to 3. So, with that, we have another Immortal for the Bubai Theory, and a big one at that. And now, I mean, that is obviously going to cost them some massive structures here. Now, everything got unleashed in that last fight, and obviously the whole idea behind Anduin going into the bubble was that they were trying to make sure that with all of that AoE damage that is coming out of Hanzo with the Dragon Strike and also the Rain of Destruction is getting mitigated to some extent at least. But yeah, that also pretty much like lines you up perfectly for the damage afterwards, so we'll see if that's going to be a winning play in the later team fights. For at least now the victory clearly goes to the Bubai Theory and Lily and Uncles, who still have neither picked Lily nor Chen. A little bit of a disappointment. We've seen so many melees, but they fucking picked Artanis and they didn't pick Chen yet. So yeah, definitely disappointing. But either way, we got 4 kills to 8, a little bit of a slappy slap by Stukov. But the fort is down, and they're going for Anduin! Ah, but Thrall dies first. And look at Bubble Boy. Yeah, he gets the bubble out and is able to get away as Gul'dan is going for the Reign of RNG. Didn't really get a whole lot out of it, at least not in this one. 23 stacks, by the way, on Alarak's level 4, so that's something to keep an eye on, at least a bit. He has the chance to make the damage happen in the late game. 28,000 for him, puts him into the top damage position for the blue team as is. And we got 42,000 for Gul'dan. Yeah, he is cracking it over here. Gul'dan with the big damage. Alright. And 13 to 13. I mean, you gotta give it to the blue team. At least in this one, they're putting up a bit of a fight. So far, the only one that hasn't died is Muradin, so the dwarf made it. But currently, yep, top side, they're all trying to go for position again. And they're going for another camp. So they're pretty much just camp farming the entire time here and doing a solid job controlling those lanes. They haven't lost the fort yet. But then again, they also only just killed one, and that's it. So, we got the mounted archery in level 13. Obviously still waiting to see what's going on with level 16 talents. Yeah, all of the other games have ended way too early. We got very little information about what the Korean teams here prioritize on level 20, for example, because none of the games has gone to level 20. But there comes Sindragosa, and yeah, off we go. Why is this thing, by the way, called Dragon Strike? If you actually look at the animation, it looks like two snakes fucking. I mean, check it out later again. That doesn't look like a dragon. I have no idea what Blizzard was doing there, but that is just like two snakes that are locked into some weird sexual ritual to make some baby snakes. That's all that's going on there. I mean, yeah, maybe it's supposed to be two dragons, and I know that they're related, but I still remain skeptical. Anduin is down, so is Gul'dan. Seems like, oh, they actually let Alarak live, but instead they're going for Muradin. And the boy goes down. Big hit coming in from Stukov. So he's dead. And here we go, straight up for the next Immortal. So yeah, let's see what Hanzo is gonna do there. But yeah, skin or no skin, I don't care. Like, that ult, if you call it Dragon Strike, you better make it look like a couple of fucking dragons. If not, you're just like another Chromie imposter. Chromie running around claiming she's a dragon all day long. Absolutely unacceptable. No real dragon would take that shape. Are you kidding me? Dragons are proud creatures. So, yeah. But, yeah. I still want to see a proper combo. And I want to see level 16. Would love to have the cooldown reduction for Hanzo so that we could get the action a little bit more often. But, yep, 29 stacks now for Alarak. And all the way up at the top. Oh, there we go. Level 16. Tempest Fury is in. Gul'dan with the Ruinous Affliction. Still looking for the synergy with the level 1 talent. Nothing has changed there. And we got Arthas with the Embrace Death. Okay, so the stage is set for the next battle. And I got bad news for Lily and Uncles. They don't have level 16. So that's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, there's another hit. And that's a full shield on the Immortal. Pretty much. So yeah, bad news. 10 to 6 the kill count, and they still don't have enough experience to hit another level and another talent, which is quite unfortunate for them, because that's a power spike that they kind of need, especially for Anduin. Having the double pull available here would probably help them a lot. So if they can somehow... I mean, they don't have a wave at the top lane either. They really need to rely on the waves at the bot lane now. They will get it eventually, but at least for now, they won't be able to do a lot with it. So, yeah, there we go. Attacks keep coming. 17 on the board, so the stats advantage is there. They got the talent advantage. Alarak looking for a flip that so far hasn't really happened. At least none of those god swaps. There comes Sindragosa. That's a dragon. That's a dragon. Look at that. This, not so much a dragon. No. Not even a Chinese dragon. I'm sorry, but that is like, that's a rattlesnake if I've ever seen one. Did you see the tail? That's definitely a rattlesnake. So we now got, I mean, that's that's Alarak down. They don't even have level 16 talents. The poor boys are just going to get murdered here. What a performance by the Bubai Theory. It is the losers bracket, as already said, of the qualifier in Korea for the first team to qualify for the Heroes International. Again, guys, it seems like it's a 3-0 victory for the red team. Make sure that you check out the video description with the links if you want to have more information about the European North American qualifiers, to catch them live, to watch them on YouTube. The GoFundMe is linked there as well, and of course the dates and the location of the main event. GG, as the Bubai Theory takes the 3-0 and moves on to the next round of the losers bracket.
Thank you everybody for watching the video today. I hope that you enjoyed the show and the commentary. And keep in mind that the spoiler protection that is going to run for the rest of the video is made possible by all the support on patreon.com. So guys, if you want to support my work, if you want to help me start new projects and keep the spoiler protection in place, please consider heading over to patreon.com/Khaldor. There's also a link in the YouTube description, and check that out. Thanks in advance, and see you guys next time with more esports coverage here on Khaldor TV. Have a great day.